Welcome to EWTN's National Eucharistic Pilgrimage Special. I'm Catherine Hadro. We come to you, our EWTN family, on the Solemnity of Pentecost, as opening masses are being offered this weekend in key cities across the country. These masses mark the official step-off of the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage. It is an important part of the larger 3-year National Eucharistic Revival, inviting Catholics to return to the source and summit of Christian life. And in mid-July, it reaches a high point in Indianapolis with the first National Eucharistic Congress in the United States in 83 years. The opening masses this weekend bless the pilgrims embarking on a 2-month journey, much of it on foot, to the Eucharistic Congress as they worship, adore, and process with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament along the way. The National Eucharistic Pilgrimage will cover thousands of miles on 4 separate routes, starting in 4 corners of the United States. Each route is named after a prominent intercessor impacting life in the Americas. The East Route for St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, the South Route for St. Juan Diego, the West for St. Junipero Serra, and the North Marian Route is named in honor of Our Lady, fitting as one stop is at the National Shrine of Our Lady of Champion in Wisconsin, the only approved Marian site in the U.S. Together, the 4 routes appear to make a cross covering the United States. During this special program, we hope to give you a flavor of the National Eucharistic Pilgrimages beginning today, as we tell you the stories of some of the route's patron saints and introduce you to pilgrims who hope to deepen their faith along this pilgrimage journey. We begin with a look at the extraordinary life of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton. The East Route begins in New Haven, Connecticut, winds through New York City, Washington, D.C., and Steubenville, Ohio, and follows in the footsteps of the American-born saint who was a wife, a mother, and eventually a religious sister. Nestled in bustling Manhattan, the Sisters of Life run their New York crisis pregnancy mission out of a saintly shrine.
It's really a privilege to be walking up to the front door every day and to see that sign that says the home of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Inside this portion of the shrine, there's a nice illustrated life of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton.
What's now a chapel used to be St. Elizabeth Ann Seton's former home. Though members of a different religious order, these sisters draw inspiration from the saint who was a mother, as they care for pregnant mothers in need today.
She's just such a unique saint in that she was a mother first, and then she became a religious sister. So just that beautiful combination of motherhood, physical motherhood, but then also spiritual motherhood.
Elizabeth Ann Bailey was born in New York City in 1774 to a prominent Episcopal family. Betty Bailey, as she was called, lost her mother at the age of 3. At 19, she married wealthy businessman William Maggie Seton. The toast of the town, they were neighbors with Alexander Hamilton and socialized with George Washington. The Setons had 5 children. When William got tuberculosis, the couple sailed to Italy in hopes of improving his health. But upon their arrival, were forced to quarantine, and William died shortly after. This time was pivotal in Seton's spiritual journey. It was in Italy where the suddenly widowed Elizabeth was immersed in Catholic culture for the first time, and where she encountered the Eucharist.
She shares once that there was she was out walking and there was a Eucharistic procession, and without thinking she knelt down and cried out to the Lord that if he was really there to bless her.
She's a great Eucharistic saint. Her conversion happened when she saw a Eucharistic pilgrimage. Anglican priest behind her said something disparaging about the Catholics who thought that really Jesus Christ was passing by. And at first, she just thought that, hey, that's not a very kind thing to say. But she began to really wrestle with that idea. Was it just a piece of bread in a monstrance walking by, or really was that Jesus? And she came to the conclusion that it was Jesus.
Father Roger Landry, the only priest committed to walking the entirety of one of the National Eucharistic pilgrimages, is walking the Eastern Seton route. He prays their Eucharistic processions spark the faith of future saints, like it did for Seton herself. Elizabeth Ann Seton converted to Catholicism in 1805 upon her return back to the U.S., where she was socially ostracized for her faith
and faced financial hardships. A few years later, Elizabeth moved to Emmitsburg, Maryland, and founded the Sisters of Charity of St. Joseph's, the first community for religious women established in the U.S. The sisters opened a free Catholic school for poverty-stricken girls, the beginning of Catholic education in the new country. Mother Seton, as she became known, died from tuberculosis in 1821 at the age of 46. And in 1975, she was canonized, becoming the first American-born saint.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Seton route pilgrims will follow in the saint's footsteps. The pilgrimage path includes a stop at the Seton Shrine in New York with the Sisters of Life. And about 2 weeks after that, a visit to Elizabeth Seton's National Shrine in Maryland, where she's buried today. From socialite to saint, in studying Elizabeth Ann Seton, it's clear the Eucharist transformed her life.
On the night that she received Jesus for the first time, that she said at last, "He is mine and I am his."
On her deathbed, she had her bed put in such a place that it was near the chapel that she could look through the door and see the tabernacle. Like, that is the depth of her love for Jesus and the Eucharist, and that the stirrings of that faith were born earlier, but really here in Lower Manhattan.
Mother Seton continues to leave her mark on the U.S. today.
The National Eucharistic Congress has selected a group of young Catholics who will travel every mile of their assigned pilgrimage route. They are called perpetual pilgrims. EWTN's Roselle Regis introduces us to a young woman traveling the Sarah West route.
Jesus' self-sacrificing, infinite love for us.
There's a possibility that love like this could exist. Like, why would you not just go see? Why would you not put aside these doubts and just go see?
Searching for a deeper connection to Jesus, Madison Michael discovered his undying love in the Eucharist.
Jesus just spoke love over me, and truly gave me a whole new heart in like an instant.
Michael, a Minnesota native, was raised as a Catholic.
I went to Sunday school, I received all the sacraments, and I was part of just a pretty thriving parish down in the cities. And so I just was really blessed by that.
But as she got older, the relationship she had with Jesus and his church dwindled. She started getting into sports like cross-country skiing, which took up most of her time outside of school.
God just wasn't a part of my life unless I was really desperate or something, then I'd say a prayer. But it was really right between high school and college where I had just a bigger moment of conversion and reversion.
It was during a Steubenville conference where the personal, intimate relationship with Christ started to take root. When attending adoration, she prayed, opening her heart to Jesus.
Okay, I've spent years away from God. And I've just been running, and I just can't carry this weight anymore of my own sins and my faults, of my imperfections. I can't carry being alone anymore. Somehow I had the words to say, like, God, just break my heart of stone and give me a whole new heart. In the name of the Father.
That was when she encountered Jesus, and her heart felt renewed. Michael started to embrace the faith full-on during college, attending Mass, reading scripture, and investing in a prayer life with friends. Before graduating, she thought about life after college. In her heart, she knew she wanted to share the faith with others. That's when she found out about Focus, a Catholic outreach organization for American college students.
They're wrestling with the same things that I was wrestling with, and now I get to hand on what I've learned and really walk with them in a relationship with Jesus. That is just such a gift.
Michael is now serving her 4th year with Focus as a campus ministry at Bemidji State University. Then, earlier this year, a unique opportunity presented itself to Michael to become a perpetual pilgrim for the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage.
The reason that I said yes to this is because I thought that it's going to be a way that I can become more like Jesus.
With the support of her family and friends, Michael is thrilled to step into the shoes of the apostles and literally follow Jesus, watch him work, and learn from him on the way. Within the Sarah route, which starts in San Francisco, California, there are planned stops at maternity homes, homeless shelters, and a prison. Michael says she is most eager to meet the people in these communities.
We have just, a number of communities that I think can often get overlooked or just pass by, who it sounds like we'll really get to enter into just a little bit of life with them.
Michael hopes that this years-long National Eucharistic Revival and this pilgrimage leading up to the Congress will light a fire in the hearts of people nationwide and bring them back to Jesus and his church.
I hope that whether it's pretty immediately or even just in the years to follow, as people are pierced by this truth of Jesus' presence and love in the Eucharist, as they go out and share that with others. I hope to see a nation pierced by the good news of Jesus, pierced by the gospel.
Rosal Regis, EWTN.
Madison Michael is one of more than 20 perpetual pilgrims stepping off on their faith journey this weekend. EWTN's Mark Irons introduces us to another pilgrim who begins his pilgrimage on the Marion North Route at the headwaters of the Mississippi River.
I just love this country so much, and to just be here is such a great blessing.
He's originally from Germany, but over the last few years, you might say Kai Weiss has enjoyed a pilgrimage throughout American culture.
I love to watch college football and listen to country music and go on road trips out west.
Along with the road trips, his journey here has been spiritual. Kai moved to the U.S. in 2021, and his own faith has been revived by what he's witnessed, Catholicism in America.
There's this sense of growth and of just really people dedicating their whole life to Jesus.
His own love for Jesus Christ and this country now come together in a special way as he takes off on the northern route of the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage from northern Minnesota to Indianapolis as a perpetual pilgrim.
I think it will be such an adventure. And so I think just being able to spend that much time with Jesus in the Eucharist will be so beautiful, and to just fall in love more with him and enjoy his love a lot more and accept his love, his unconditional love a little more.
But that kind of faith-filled reflection from Kai has been a long time coming. Growing up in Germany, his family was not religious. Surprisingly, when he was a boy, his parents let him decide for himself if he wanted to practice faith. And as a 6-year-old, he chose to be baptized in the Catholic Church.
I don't know why, I can't really remember much about it, but obviously a great blessing looking back at it.
But growing up, Kai struggled with and stopped practicing his faith. Things changed when he came to America and attended an intellectual Catholic conference in Washington, D.C. The topics discussed and the people he met made a lasting impact.
And that was just so transformative, and I think it was here that for the first time I really felt God's presence and actually just knowing in a deeper way that God exists.
The event was so transformative for Kai, he decided to pursue a master's degree in theology at the Dominican House of Studies in Washington, where his relationship with God has grown as he seeks deeper understanding.
And to just really dig deeper to get to know the truth a little bit more.
But even as a full-time student, immersing himself in faith-based academic work, he tries to spend time every day in church with the person who is at the heart of his studies.
Going to Mass and to adoration every day is really the best part.
Kai described a powerful, simple moment during his reversion to faith when he walked into a church during adoration one day. He realized who was actually there under the appearance of Eucharistic bread.
And I walked in and there was this moment where I was like, oh, this is Jesus. And it just really hit me in that very moment. I think it's just always beautiful to go to adoration or to receive the Eucharist and to just see how Jesus just wants to be with us.
When Kai found out he had been selected as one of the perpetual pilgrims earlier this year, he says he revisited a journal entry he had made from last year.
I went into my prayer journal and there was this entry from September, which was I just want to spend all my time with the Eucharist soon or something like that.
He'll now have that opportunity as he walks along the northern route of the pilgrimage known as the Marian route. Pilgrims will visit many shrines dedicated to the Virgin Mary along the way, including Our Lady of Champion outside Green Bay, Wisconsin, the site of the only church-approved Marian apparition in the U.S. Back in Germany, Kai grew up not far from a popular Marian site in Bavaria, the Shrine of Our Lady of Altatin. And in Washington, he likes to visit the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception and pray for Mary's intercession in a corner where a statue of Our Lady of Altatin can be found.
It definitely connects me to my home, to my family, to my friends, to the Bavarian Catholic Church.
As he embarks on pilgrimage in the country he's grown to love, Kai hopes the Eucharist will unite all people regardless of geographical, political, or cultural divides.
I really hope that this pilgrimage can bring all of us together.
Mark Irons, EWTN.
The pilgrimage's south route begins in Brownsville, Texas, and honors a humble saint who had a great devotion to the Eucharist. Saint Juan Diego was an indigenous farmer known for seeing the apparitions of Our Lady of Guadalupe. EWTN's Monse Alvarado tells us about the massive impact he's had on the spiritual character of North America.
The southern route of the National Eucharistic Pilgrimages starts just a few blocks from the Mexico-U.S. border and has the patron of indigenous peoples and the poor as its namesake. Juan Diego Cuauhtlotautzin, also known simply as Juan Diego, was a Chichimec indigenous convert to Christianity born in 1474. The name Cuauhtlotautzin, which means the talking eagle, had prophetic significance for the local population. Juan Diego serves especially as a witness to the Latino community, which John Paul II expressed when he canonized Juan Diego in 2002.
In accepting the Christian message without foregoing his indigenous identity, Juan Diego facilitated the fruitful meeting of two worlds and became the catalyst for the new Mexican identity.
Not only did he unify all Mexicans, but he also unifies all those who are on a journey, on a pilgrimage, much like the one some thousands of pilgrims will march this summer to the National Eucharistic Congress. The story of Juan Diego has been preserved over time through the Nican Mapua, a manuscript now kept at the New York Public Library that details Our Lady's time with Juan Diego. As a Native American living in the 15th century in what is now Mexico City, Juan Diego was influenced by the incoming Franciscan missionary priests and was baptized at age 50 and had special permission to receive the Eucharist. Sister Manuela, author of Our Lady of Guadalupe, History and Meaning of the Apparitions, explains the meaning of that permission to receive the Eucharist.
Lo poco que se nos transmitió.
The little that was conveyed to us is this, that he had permission. And at that time it was a rare thing, and it was the proof of his purity of spirit.
On one of his pilgrimages in 1531, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to Juan Diego on a hill and told him, "Go to the residence of the Bishop of Mexico, and you will tell him how I am sending you, so that you may reveal to him that I very much want him to build me a house here, to erect a temple for me on the plain. It is very necessary that you, personally, go and plead that my wish become a reality." Juan Diego did as he was told, but the bishop didn't believe him and asked for a sign to prove that what he said was true. Jose Manuel de Urquidi, entrepreneur and founder of the Juan Diego Radio Network in Dallas, has a special devotion to this saint and emphasizes Juan Diego's position as an indigenous man before the Spanish bishop.
She asked him something very important, to go to the first archbishop of the New Spain, right? Not directly. He didn't feel worthy at all. But still, Our Lady of Guadalupe chose him, right? He was a layman.
Juan Diego avoided Our Lady, and she appeared to him 4 times. He was searching for a priest to help his sick uncle, and afraid that Our Lady would interrupt his journey, he took a different route. Our Lady intercepted him and promised to take care of his uncle. Vicente del Real, founder of Iscali, a ministry for young Latinos in Chicago, reflects on the meaning behind Our Lady's chosen messenger, a humble indigenous convert.
Like Juan Diego, we do not need to have all the resources. We do not need to be perfect. But Our Lady sees in our humility and our heart and tells us, it must be you.
Our Lady sent her messenger to the bishop and told him to gather roses in his tilma or tunic. And when he greeted the bishop, he opened his tilma, the roses fell out, and an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared on his tilma. The bishop believed him and had a church built, which can now be visited along with the miraculous tilma in Mexico City. Juan Diego lived in a little house next to the church, greeting pilgrims and sharing his testimony until he died in 1548. His testimony continues as a powerful witness today, and example religious orders also follow. The Carmelite Sisters of the Most Sacred Heart of Los Angeles have their roots in Mexico and share a devotion to Our Lady of Guadalupe. Sister Inez points out the welcome intercessors today's pilgrims have in Juan Diego, who made his own 15-mile pilgrimage to Mass 3 times a week.
I think of Juan Diego and I think of the whole, the people of Mexico during those years of when Our Lady appeared. And they were a people on a journey. They knew that they hadn't arrived. And, you know, I think of even this, it's a pilgrimage. And pilgrimages remind us that we're going somewhere.
Across cultures and across class lines, Juan Diego reminds us of the role of the laity in collaborating with the bishops in uniting for this Eucharistic revival.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
Montse Alvarado reporting for EWTN.
The pilgrims traveling on the 4 saint routes all arrive in Indianapolis in mid-July. That's when I will be joined by my 2 co-hosts as EWTN brings you 5 days of live coverage of the National Eucharistic Congress. Father Aquinas Gilbo, a Dominican priest, serves as the first vice president of ministry and mission at the Catholic University of America. And Pete Burak is vice president of Renewal Ministries, a ministry with the goal of strengthening and equipping Catholics for evangelization and ministry and the power of the Holy Spirit. Gentlemen, it's great to see you both. Father, I want to go to you first. This is the first National Eucharistic Congress in 83 years, but I understand it's the 10th one in our nation's history. Give us some context as to the significance of this upcoming event.
Thank you, Catherine, and it's good to be with you. Yes, the Eucharistic Congresses here in the United States, the planning for them, for the initial ones, began in the late 19th century. The first one, though, took place in 1895 in Washington in 1901, in St. Louis 1904, in New York, and then for several years in other cities like Chicago, New Orleans, Philadelphia. The last of these congresses took place in 1941, just before the U.S. entered World War II. The war seemingly ended our participation in these congresses or the holding of these congresses every few years, and I know it's a big dream of the organizers of this Congress that this would be the first of a renewed series of these Eucharistic Congresses around our nation.
I hope so too. It's overdue. Pete, as you've been traveling the country and speaking, have you been seeing the fruit from the National Eucharistic Revival so far? What are you hearing from the faithful?
Yeah, I think people are excited. I think they're hopeful. And the other word I would use is I think they're curious. This is definitely a new movement, even just the unity of the bishops bringing forth to the people of God this opportunity to encounter this source and summit of our faith and to come together to celebrate what it means to be Catholic and to hopefully receive something new from the Lord. And so I think a lot of people are kind of cautiously looking at it with a degree of excitement, a degree of enthusiasm, but a degree of curiosity as to what is the Lord going to do, not only in those few days, but in the days and weeks to follow.
That's well said. Father, the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage is kicking off this weekend, Pentecost weekend. What role do you see the pilgrimages playing leading up to the Congress?
Well, I think the pilgrimages are just modeling for all of us Eucharistic revival. So literally carrying our Eucharistic Lord, our Lord's presence in the Blessed Sacrament from 4 corners of the country, all converging in Indianapolis for the Congress in mid-July. And so as those pilgrimages are passing through our country and stopping in various cities, at various schools, cathedrals, churches, it's an opportunity for the whole country to participate, even if they can't get to Indianapolis this summer, for participation in the Eucharistic revival, in the Eucharistic Congress. And again, hopefully this is a catalyst for renewing the Eucharistic life of the Church.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, on that note, leading up to the Congress, Pete, do you have any insight on how the faithful can cultivate an even deeper devotion to the Eucharist during this time?
Yeah, my encouragement and our encouragement, the Church would just say, keep praying, keep asking the Lord to do something new in our country and in our hearts. Revival starts with individual people. While it is a movement and it is a big plan that the bishops have enacted, at the end of the day, revivals rise and fall with individual people responding to what the Lord is doing in their life. So finding Eucharistic adoration chapels in your town, going to Mass as frequently as possible, and crying out to God. What would it look like if the people of our country actually cried out to God for him to do something mighty, not just in Indy, but across the whole country?
And with God, all things are possible. We're 2 months out now from the National Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis. I'm curious, what are you each most looking forward to in July? Father, I'll go to you first.
I'm looking forward simply to the Church in the United States coming together for this special event, to be with the Church as the Church, but centered on the Blessed Sacrament, centered on the Eucharistic mystery, the celebration of Mass, adoration. The Eucharist is old, right? I mean, it's among the oldest mysteries of the faith. The Lord instituted it the night before he died, and the Christians, the Church has been celebrating it since the time of Pentecost. We want something new. We want a new experience of this old mystery. And so I think coming together in this new way to revive this program of occasional congresses and pilgrimages and processions is a way of rediscovering the mighty mystery of this old mystery of faith, of how it is that the Lord in his body, blood, soul, and divinity comes to us and gives himself as our food for the Christian life and our pilgrimage to heaven. So we, as Pete said, we want something new to come out of this very, very old mystery.
Pete, what about you? What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I keep thinking of Lucas Oil Stadium as an upper room where we're coming together, we're hungry, we're crying out to God, and we're waiting. And we're waiting on him to do something. And I just keep getting the image of what would it look like if, as we flow out of Lucas Oil Stadium, tens of thousands of people who have been renewed in the Spirit, maybe come alive in the Spirit in a new and more powerful way, flowing back to their towns and to their cities and their parishes to bring about a renewed sense that God is doing something in our country and in our church. There's been so much bad news related to the church over the last several years. It's time for something good. And the good news of the gospel is always good. But when the people of God come together and receive the newness of the Spirit, mighty things can happen.
Absolutely. We have less than a minute left, gentlemen, but do you have a quick word of encouragement for someone if they're on the fence about whether or not to participate? Pete, I'll go to you first.
This just doesn't happen very often. The bishops are united. We're united. Let's come together and worship the Lord.
Absolutely. And Father, you can have the final word.
Come to Indianapolis and have a new and vibrant experience of the Church.
Father Aquinas Gilbo and Pete Burak, thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like to attend the National Eucharistic Congress, it is not too late to sign up. Go to EWTN.com/Eucharist and click on Register Now and receive a discount. You can also join the Eucharistic pilgrimage even for just a few miles if it comes through a Catholic parish near you. Detailed maps and schedules are available on the website eucharisticcongress.org. I'm Catherine Hadro. I will be in Indianapolis in mid-July at the National Eucharistic Congress. Join me and my EWTN colleagues for full coverage as we celebrate the source and summit of our Christian life. Until then, God bless.